I wanted to ask you again about the terrain apartments. I went back and looked not only at what Ms. Loj said, but the day after that, Stephane on July 14th, when asked about what she said that the UN was already at that time investigating its own role. So I wanted to know, in the intervening month, what has the UN found out? Like yesterday it was said sort of like the UN, based on the AP report, is going to be looking into it. In the month since July 14th and now August 15th, what did the UN find out about its role?
Like I said, we are investigating this. That investigation has not concluded. We may have more to say on this in the next day or so in terms of what will be done in terms of any further investigation. But at this stage, the point is it's ongoing.
But when did the investigation start, I guess? Having now looked at what was said on the 14th, did it start then, or did it not start until now?
It started very rapidly upon the first awareness of this incident, which, as you're aware, we reported to you at the time.
I wanted to ask you, there's a particular case of a dozen internationals in something called the Terrain Apartments in Juba that say they have no protection at all and are surrounded by SPLA. And I wanted to know, is the UN in a position to provide help,
well, obviously, this is a very, very fluid situation. The UN is doing whatever it can with the means that we have on hand to protect its own staff, to ensure that everybody is safe and sound, and there are mechanisms in place, and I'm sure those are being followed, but I don't have those exact details.
One last one. I'll
come back to you. Yes.
Were you aware of FAO staff that were in this Terrain Apartments that were surrounded, and if so, who freed them?
Yes, I was aware of I got informed about the attack on the facility, which is a very popular restaurant and also accommodation for a number of internationals. I believe there were about 22 or 23, I cannot recall the exact number, of which some of them were FAO staff. And we as soon as we got the information, we contacted both the army and the security institutions that all assisted in their getting it stopped and getting them out. And they reached the facility quicker than the UN peacekeepers. And then you had another question which I have forgotten.
Also, I wanted to ask you, yesterday Ellen Loj was confirmed that her knowledge of this incident at the Terrain Apartments, where a number of internationals had been trapped and were freed. A journalist was killed in the course of that, John Gatluak of Internews. And I wanted to know, since many people are saying he was killed by the government or the Salva Kiir forces because he's a Nuer, and given that the UN, she said, they're aware of that attack, is there going to be any follow-up?
Well, I think you may have missed this, but in the beginning. But
Sure.
I read a whole paragraph expressing the fact that we had very disturbing reports of the targeting of UN premises, UN staff, international NGOs, including the journalists, is something we're obviously aware of. We're asking the government to investigate. We're looking at it as well, and as well as our own response. So it's something we very much proactively flagged a few minutes ago.
I'm asking because Ellen Loj said that she or the mission called the government to go to the apartments, and if now the allegation is that the government went to the government that killed the journalist, there's
obviously
a
we
bigger UN
need
role
to
than
find
issuing a
clarity into what happened. What we are seeing are very disturbing reports of harassment of UN staff, international NGO staff, allegedly by SPLA soldiers. Carol.
To ask you, because I actually asked Ellen Loj was in this room, and I asked her about the Terrain Apartments on July 13th, and she said that the mission had called the government because they could get there quicker. Given that those accused of doing the rapes and beatings and killing of the journalist John Gatluak were at least dressed in government uniforms, the answer seemed strange at the time, and I'm wondering, that's what she said, sitting, I guess she was on a screen rather than sitting there. Is that, I don't know if you were here for that conference, but that's what she said. That was a month ago.
I was
and so
here at the same
my
spot
question
that I'm always at.
if the report by the AP actually names the battalions who refused to go, including from Ethiopia, China, and Nepal. But if in fact the government SPLA troops were the ones doing the rapes, does the UN informing the government, is that a sufficient response, and is that a possible, actionable in some way.
Well, like I said, we're reviewing exactly what our response was, and we're trying to see what the deficiencies were. And once that happens, we'll consider what the appropriate measures are.
But I'm just saying there was an answer from the SRSG in this room, so that there's no need to investigate that part of it.
There's clearly a need to investigate exactly the totality of everything we've done and see what could have been done better.
Right. But there's no change of what she said. I guess I just want to know in terms of.
She said what she said,
Okay.
but we're looking into the totality of what happened. Obviously, that's what's important to do. All right, one more.